just northeast of Durban, there lies a school believed to be God's gift to all those who attend. Established in 1869, Inanda Seminary was the first school built for black females and has its roots firmly in the Christian value system.
Even just coming into this particular campus, visitors will often remark that this place has a real spirit about it.
The ethos of our school, the core values of our school has kept this school going. It has saved us from a lot of things.
For me, it's reinforced my own Christian values, of love, of being giving, of just appreciating that we are on this earth for a reason.
It really made you feel that you could hold your own in any area, on any platform.
Without the values, we knew we could not achieve whatever we wanted to achieve.
We always say at Inanda Seminary, the reason that we've lasted 139 years is because God's hand has been over this place for so long. And it doesn't mean there haven't been difficult times. Certainly there have been. But God has faithfully and always seen us through at Inanda Seminary. Just driving up the road to the school, it just opens up into what I often refer to as an oasis. And sitting here as we are right now in a very peaceful place and surroundings.
The story of Inanda Seminary is the story of Christian values and African culture meeting in a turbulent time in South Africa's history and growing together on the soil of Inanda. The lineage of Inanda Seminary goes back to the 1830s, to a time of turmoil that affected all the people of Southern Africa. It was a time of battles for territory between the white settlers, the English and the Boers, between the African tribes like the Matabele and the Zulus, and between the white settlers as a whole and the indigenous African people. The war broke communities, leaving people scattered and forlorn. At about the same time, in another part of the world, the American Congregational Church was seeking to bring the knowledge of Christ to more people. For many churches across the globe, the focus was on Africa for growing the faith. Mark Hopkins and Rufus Anderson were key members of the Congregational Church that saw South Africa as an ideal opportunity. It was during this time the American board sent 6 key missionary couples to Africa to set up mission stations in Natal. Missions were established in Groutville, Amanzimtoti, and Inanda with the hope of bringing peace and solace to the people of these areas.
Inanda is the name of the mountain which is about 20 kilometers from here. It's where my ancestors originally came from. When they left Zululand, they never left Zululand in a good way. It was, they were being destroyed by Dingane. I think it was in around 1836. So they came down until they found a place of which they found it to be pleasant for the tribe to settle. Hence they call that place Inanda.
The ravages of war brought a yearning for peace, a yearning for trust in a time of suspicion. In Durban's outskirts, Inanda became a pleasant sanctuary.
The American board sent 6 missionary couples to South Africa in 1836.
In 1858, At Inanda, the missionary in charge was the Reverend Daniel Lindley.
He established this mission station in Mzanyati, not too far away from Inanda Seminary, Inanda Mission, and the Inanda Falls. Daniel Lindley preached even under this very same tree. So here we are 60 years later, and underneath of which we have a small rectangular foundation that has just recently been cleared.
The foundations recently unearthed belonged to the original house built by Lindley. Although he established this site, he was not the mission's first pastor.
Daniel Lindley was here in Mzanyati for about 10 years, and then he moved to the Inanda mission site. Though Daniel Lindley established this mission site, the first pastor, once the Mzanyati church was constituted, was Reverend James Bryant.
Reverend James Bryant came to be known as the first saint of the Zulus.
When Reverend James Bryant came here, on his way from Oxwagon, from Port Elizabeth, in 10 weeks, he learned isiZulu fluently. But in 10 weeks, Reverend James Bryant delivered his first sermon fluently in isiZulu. It is an incredible feat.
Through learning isiZulu, Reverend James Bryant was able to leave his mark by helping other missionaries understand the Zulu language. Tragically, he died at a young age in 1850. The gravestone of Reverend Bryant was recently discovered in close proximity to Lindley's house.
Here at Inanda, this church was formed by Reverend Daniel Lindley, who was one of 6 missionary couples sent by the American Board in the mid-1830s. The church here at Inanda is sort of where everything started. It's where the school started. It's where Ohlange started. It's where, in many ways, Christianity started in this part of the world. Daniel Lindley was very unique in that he was a missionary to the indigenous population, the Amazulu. He was a missionary to the British settlers, and he was a missionary to the Boers, to the Dutch. In fact, I would be willing to suspect that Daniel Lindley had one of the largest preaching circuits in terms of square mileage of any missionary in the world.
Being an American, the Reverend Daniel Lindley was trusted both as a minister by the Boers and as a missionary among the African people.
He moved to Inanda in 1857, and then 10-12 years later, the Inanda Seminary was founded just 3 kilometers away.
In this picturesque area of Inanda, the seeds of Christianity took birth and flourished.
When Lindley and other missionaries came, Adams, Grout and others, their main purpose was to come and convert into Christianity and also educate them. So in 1859, they started with a theological school at Amanzi Mtoti, of which it was only for men at that time. And then later they realized that they were educating men, but they were not preparing the wives for them.
Initially, the school was set up to make good wives for the men who were being trained at the Amanzi Mtoti, it was called then, Amanzi Mtoti College, Theological College, and they wanted to have good wives for the priests that were coming out of there. So it was started as an industrial domestic school initially. and the academic school emerged from that.
Despite their attempts to learn the indigenous dialects, missionaries experienced difficulty with the click sounds of the local languages.
And this place was called Ingwaqube. Most of the missionaries couldn't say the word Ingwaqube because of the cliques that were there. So they negotiated with Chief Mkawe. And then it was agreed that they'll call this place Inanda Mission.
The school building was ready in 1867 and they didn't have a principal, and the Lindleys called for help. They wanted a teacher, they wanted a principal. And a widow, 40 years old, Mary Kelly Edwards, whose bust is behind me, answered that and came here as the first principal of the school.
Mary Kelly Edwards left an established, civilized life and arrived to a very rural Africa by ship. Edwards' call to Africa was realized after the tragic loss of her spouse at the age of 40. Soon after this misfortune, she recognized a deeper purpose in life, a sense to make a difference and spread the word of God.
By the time she arrived in the end of 1868, they actually opened on the 1st of March, 1869.
Everything we did as pupils, students, learners, whichever word name you use now, we always knew that we owe our existence to her. I mean, for this American woman to come to South Africa and put roots, you know that she was headmistress or principal for 60 years.
The school is extremely rich in archived resources dating back many decades. These are housed in the Lucy Lindley building. Some prized collections that make up the archive are meticulously stored, and students are encouraged to explore them.
The National Geographic magazine is the only magazine which we have in the archives collection from 1925.
Dumisane Zondi, the school's first black male principal, made it his passion to document the history of Inanda Seminary, collecting and preserving documents and artifacts from the time of the school's first principal, Mary K. Edwards.
When she arrived, she had all her belongings in this small wardrobe, and she had also brought in about 15 of these desks and a chair where she could sit.
Resolute in her faith, Mary K. Edwards steered the course of the institution's excellence through great personal sacrifice. Since coming to Inanda, she only visited America once until she died at the age of 97.
That's what our school was about, serving the next person rather than serving yourself. And you think back to Mary K. Edwards and you say, yes, that's what she did. That's what she and her friend did. They went and served others.
I can never stop admiring that woman. I simply can't. I mean, at the back of my mind, I always say, what takes somebody from one country and go and start a school in another country, a school for people she doesn't even know, and it's still standing 140 years down the line.
Those that really contributed strongly and whose legacy is still felt even now, had a faith that really helped to solidify the determination and the good thinking that they had, the true meaning of caring for the next person.
She really was absolutely devoted to the school and to this community. She was answering a call from God to spread the gospel. And she says on her plaque, if I haven't made Jesus Christ real to them, I count all else as nothing.
Most memories lay preserved in the Lindley building within Inanda Seminary, with each artifact reliving the school's history.
You can imagine how many girls can eat out of here. This was mainly one for porridge and one for stew. They used these irons on open coal, but later on when the stove was donated, they were able to use more irons on one fire.
The era of apartheid, it came very late when the school was already matured, and they managed to continue without being interfered through apartheid.
The school has once a week had a news service on a Friday morning where the news of the country and the news of the world is given out to the school. And I think in the days of apartheid, this was fundamental because that's then carried through to the classroom, through to the lessons, and debates ensued in those lessons.
Although the school is renowned for its prestigious academic reputation, it was no stranger to the cruel reality of apartheid.
We had quite a lot of interracial interactions, but it didn't romanticize the world in which we were living. We still knew that outside those gates, life was just not normal.
In the chapel in the morning where we had the assembly, a different teacher each time would present a kind of bulletin of the news of that week, a kind of summary. And you would listen also there to the response of the students to things that were happening in South Africa.
We had various reviews of the day. You'd get people who would be reviewing what was happening and making you understand why things were happening the way that the things were happening. And it taught us a number of things. Firstly, not just to look at the past as, okay, this happened, but think about why it happened, how it could have happened better, and how, you know, you could actually rectify it in the future.
And it was an education for me. I really began to understand not only what was happening in South Africa, but how it was affecting people in the black community. And I had never fully understood that before.
In the early 70s, the school faced the ugliness of apartheid when they were refused permission from the Alhambra Theatre in Durban to watch a performance of Macbeth.
I wrote a letter to the Daily News complaining about this and actually quoting some of the script of Macbeth, which talks about tyranny and oppression, you know. And the actors saw this letter and they were horrified because some of them came from overseas and they didn't know that people were being prevented from seeing the play they were putting on. They phoned me here at the school and they said, we would like to come and give a free presentation for all the standard 8s in black schools in Durban. And they came out here and they had a look and they chose this place up here as their stage, and then the children sat and lay on the ground watching in absolute rapt attention, following with their plays in front of them, you know. And I had never experienced this, the tremendous response through the drama. I don't think they understood all the words of Macbeth, but they understood the drama. You would hear them going, like that at a dramatic moment. And when 1,000 kids do that, it makes quite a sound. And I think the actors were amazed by this.
The decision to remain independent of the government-sponsored so-called Bantu education policy and retain quality academic education put a severe strain on finances, threatening the school with closure.
At the beginning of 1975, the board had indicated that we should withdraw some of the students who came from outside Natal. I had to talk to the girls, and I said to them, some of you must get back home and find the schools there. The girls unanimously said, you will make us a note. We will ask for funds. When the schools reopened, to my greatest surprise, the parents, as they brought the girls, they brought the money. And within 1 month, I was able to pay all the expenses owed by the school.
It seemed that Inanda Seminary was saved yet again. However, the goodwill of parents could not sustain the increasing financial burden of maintaining the old buildings.
By 1995, it was obvious that the school cannot really run, and the church, felt, even with that, they should close. So by 1997, they announced at home that it would be the last, and that they would have to close at the end of that year.
The school became very dilapidated, and that was one of the reasons why the UCCSA said that they could no longer fund the school, because it was just a bottomless pit.
We phoned our all girls, we friends of Inanda Seminary, and so on. We held meetings, and we pleaded with the church, please keep our schools open, and let's see what we can do.
I think we almost lost Inanda, to tell the honest fact. I think they were close to going to the Pope, to ask the authorities not to close the school.
When the old girls took on the running of the school, they found it really difficult because it wasn't in an attractive condition at all. And being well connected, some of them got hold of Nelson Mandela, former president, and he got hold of SAPI, the pulp and paper company, and they were extremely generous. Originally they pledged R1 million to assist the school, but by the time they had finished, they had actually put in R3.5 million into the school.
I'm gonna crawl up into that kingdom, into that good news, into that good news. I'm gonna crawl up into that kingdom, into that good news, into that good news. I'm gonna lay down this world, gonna shoulder up on my cross. Gonna take it home to my Jesus, into that good news, good news.
Part of what makes Inanda distinct is that while it is a Christian church school, it has a strong African ethos, and we're really proud of that. And many of our parents actually send their daughters here because they don't want to lose the African culture, and we celebrate it richly.
Morning staff, morning members.
And certainly in our chapel services, we celebrate African culture in a very beautiful way. And we're really proud of that, and I think it is what makes our school distinct, that we have a fine education, high academic standards, a strong language emphasis, and strong emphasis on African culture.
At Inanda Seminary, they ensured that we never forgot we were African. We never forgot that we were women, but at the same time, they took that being African and being women to be a very solid foundation that we use to be effective in the society in which we live in.
What I love in the school is right from Ma Edwards' days that everybody who teaches here is called Ma.
It just comes naturally. Yes, Ma. Sorry, Ma. It becomes part of a suffix that you add to every word or sentence that you use.
You shouldn't be too judgmental, Ma, because it's the same as Angel said, Ma, when you go to a restaurant, Ma, and then you suddenly just go, Ma.
Every member of staff is called Ma. So that makes the children feel that they have got a mother when they leave their home.
Maybe it's the spirit of Ma Edward that actually said, I will create a family for these girls not to feel like they're away from home, but they're going to school. And I mean, just start thinking about it. In 1868, how many girls went to school then? Hardly any, you know, but that was started then, and it still continues, because we hardly called, our teachers were never called Mrs. So it was Ma Sangweni, Ma Tabashi, and whatever, and you felt like you were home all the time, yes, yeah.
From the humble beginnings of the institution, the seminary has made consistent progress over the years. However, its adherence to discipline has never been compromised. Every morning the girls are woken up by the sound of a brass bell.
Oh, talk about the sound of the rising bell. That was quite a sound, because it would ring at about 5 in the morning. Especially in winter, all you wanted to do was just to pull the blankets over yourself, and you knew that Matele, who was our matron, would come in and make sure that all of you were out there and in the freezing cold. And those days there wasn't running hot water, so you're looking at a basin of cold water and quickly having your bath there and rushing. It's still dark. But when you think about it, why did we wake up at 5? So that we would get ready for the day, as in not just preparing ourselves physically, but also mentally, because we had to go and catch up with our studies, finish off our homework before we went to classes at 8. So there was just that routine.
The second ringing of the bell is much more anticipated than the first. Breakfast at the school is a hearty one with delicious meals and good company. The girls offer grace before partaking of the meals provided. Indulgence at breakfast is not without discipline. Values of responsibility and order instilled by the seminary ensure that dishes and cutlery are cleared and kept away long before classes commence.
It was very interesting when Oprah Winfrey started her academy in Johannesburg, that we had a group come and visit us, and they asked us what it is that we do that has left such a legacy amongst our girls out there in the nation, because when they have met black women of substance, they said, they all have a trail that brings them back to Inanda Seminary, and they wanted to know what we did here that had caused that. And of course our answer is that it's a Christian school, and that God has had his hand over this place and over their lives, and together with living in community, we believe that is what has sent them out there as mothers of the nation.
As a missionary, I think that in today's world and in South Africa, I have it pretty easy compared to the missionaries of the 1800s that came to really an undeveloped area of the country. They really wanted to come and preach the gospel and to teach of Christ and the Bible. But the other thing that Congregationalist missionaries did specifically, they also wanted to develop the whole person through health and education as well.
The girls are coached in the various sports offered by the school. These include tennis, volleyball, soccer and rugby, and forms an integral part of the school's curriculum. The sporting activities are believed to greatly contribute not only to physical fitness, but more importantly, to healthy character development and fair play.
very rewarding seeing people who didn't believe that they could do something take aboard those skills and move forward in strength.
Some of the values included knowing that, you know, you're not an island and you can never be an island. You need the people around you and you need to plow back to the people around you.
Students are also strongly encouraged to participate in community outreach programs.
The grade 11 students of Inanda Seminary got involved in a project called SMILE. Now, the main aim of this project is for students in high school to help students in primary schools to speak English.
The SMILE program was started by the principal from St. Mary's School in Kloof. He recognized the two different educational facilities existing in the affluent Kloof area and the impoverished Valley of 1,000 Hills. Through the SMILE program, the principal believed that he could remedy the issues experienced by the community.
I'd been doing a lot of work in that community and I knew that community very well. And I called a meeting with all the principals of the 12 schools. And those 12 principals, I said, what would you like? I didn't for one instance say, this is what we're going to do. I said, what would you like us to do? And unanimously, each one of them said, teach our children to speak English. So what happens is that the grade 11s volunteer. It's not a compulsory thing, they volunteer. And they take SMILE as part of their extramural activity.
SMILE stands for the St. Mary's Interactive Learning Experience and is adopted by the grade 11 pupils of the seminary as part of their community service. On a Wednesday, they visit the Hilda Makanya Primary School in the impoverished Lindelani area where the grade 4 and 5 students are taught English.
We work on topics or themes. For instance, just say it's sport and we're doing soccer this week. She will just introduce a 20-minute lesson and introduce all the vocabulary to the children. Then what will happen is those 48 children will divide into 8 groups of 6. And each group of 6 will have one, what we call an SG, a SMILE girl or guy in charge. And it's a very easy program for schools to get involved in because you basically buy a pack of stuff, which you'll see that the girls, with all the aids, all the stuff is prepared, very educationally sound. And all you need is your volunteer grade 11s, and you need a teacher in charge to drive the program to help them. But the grade 11s run the program. Because they're giving back something, and obviously their language skills are better, it gives them so much confidence. So it's a two-way thing. It's not only grade 11s teaching grade 4s. Just by being part of a whole program like that, we get a lot of confidence building, which I think, and self-esteem building, which I think is good.
It is said that cleanliness is next to godliness, and throughout its existence, the seminary has been meticulously maintained. The seminary boasts lush greenery and impressive architecture, all of which add to the beauty and spirit of the place. And this makes Inanda Seminary more than just a school to those who attend.
There are 2 great days at Inanda Seminary that we always celebrate. And that in October we always have the Founders Day. And it's the school's birthday on the 6th of March. And the old girls always go during both days.
Every year, on the morning of the school's birthday, a service is held at the graveside of the school's first principal, Mary Kelly Edwards. Thereafter, celebrations begin with a street procession. The procession ends at the school's chapel, where prominent past pupils are invited to revisit their school and join in the celebrations. In 2010, the school celebrated 141 years of its existence.
Members. Parents.
It was on this momentous occasion that Zugisa Nandi Shabalala, the daughter of former Health Minister Manto Shabalala Msimang, made an important announcement on behalf of her late mum. The late Dr. Manto Shabalala Msimang was also an ex-member of the Inanda Seminary.
As you know, Mama was a part of the Women's Resource Center of KwaZulu-Natal. And they have decided to donate to Inanda Seminary a swimming.
This is my first time here. My mom went to school here. So for me, it's, you know, Mama liked to give to the community. She loved to, and especially she liked to educate young girls. So I think for them to have the opportunity to actually learn a new skill, which is swimming, which is actually a life skill. And for me to be able to have the honor of doing this on her behalf is just absolutely special and very heartwarming. I think for me as well as the rest of our family.
As per tradition, on the school's birthday, the chapel service is followed with lunch on the lawns, where the celebrations and reminiscing continue.
The ethos of the school is still there as it was 40 years ago when I was a student here. Inanda gave me a lot of skills that I wouldn't have gained anywhere else, one of them being confidence. Having done the same for 141 years and produced so many leaders, I can simply say even up to today, they are still producing that kind of quality with the girls.
This has been an awesome day in the life of the seminary. And so every birthday means a growth, and it means that we have yet again proof that we are just more than a school institution. We're a family, and that we have grown and we've gained strength from last year to yet another year of excellence.
The pristine reputation that Inanda Seminary still enjoys was not without cost. In 1993, the school suffered a major setback when the Edwards Hall was destroyed.
Unfortunately, during these years of decay, because of the electrical fault, one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, this building caught fire. Below were the classrooms and on top were the dormitories. Well, I remember a lot of things, the teachings we got, and the memories, of course, of us in the dormitories and so on. It has been our dream to restore Edwards Hall to its former glory and to keep the memory of Ma Edwards going.
In March 2009, the fate of Edwards Hall took a positive turn.
is really a wonderful day for everyone in the school, and an exciting one as well, because we're celebrating our 140th birthday. We're opening Edwards Hall. There were actually ex-members donated money towards the renovation of the building. So this year we're actually reopening it.
After 16 years, in conjunction with the school's 140th birthday, Edwards Hall was reopened. It was completely restored to its former splendor and today houses state-of-the-art classrooms. The trials and stumbling blocks only serve to strengthen the bonds between the students.
It's developed around a family. In fact, you'll find that the girls are all called members because they are members of a family and they call each other members. And out there in the business world, if they see somebody from school, they'll always greet each other as hello member.
The original meaning is that we're all members of the same family. And in addition to that, we're all members of the body of Christ. And so there's a beautiful expression that is used here on a daily basis when being a part of this community, the students are all referred to as being members. We're the same family and we're all part of the body of Christ.
Inanda Seminary's vision was always pitched higher than circumstance, and the strong Christian ethos helped build character, the character of leaders.
Old Inanda girls, you can see the Speaker of the House, you can see the Mrs. Nduna I talked about, the wife of John Dube, and the other girls who attended school here.
Most of the leaders in South Africa, they came from Inanda Seminary. The type of education that they are offering here, it's an education of producing leaders. They've not deviated from that anyone who is here at Inanda Seminary need to be aware of what takes place in the outside world, on how you should conduct yourself in order to become a good leader.
The spunk and the feistiness. I certainly think that we have lots of that. Certainly in South Africa today, there are many women in high places who have a trail back to Inanda Seminary, because it was a strong emphasis that everybody was to leave here equipped and empowered, and I think that the seminary has done that.
They are all thinking very progressively, because the motto of the institution is shine where you are. And they always shine, whether you're a lawyer, you shine. You're a doctor, you shine. You're a cabinet minister, you shine.
Students were reminded that in the future they must shine wherever they go. They would be expected to be leaders, and they were being trained to be leaders.
The academic training might be perceived as ambitious, but the girls always had a passion rooted in the values of their indigenous culture.
You know, we have a grinding stone in Zulu, where you grind millimil. You use the grinding stone, which we call imbogote. It will grind any grain that you bring over, and it will cause that grain to be millimil. And this is why they are the imbogote, aiming at grinding all the wrongs of the country into the oneness that we hope to achieve in the name of God.
Theirs was not leadership for the sake of position and status. True leadership demanded character that was made from the building blocks of solid values.
They practiced those core values as being absolutely fundamental to the lives of the girls who were here. And the 6 core values: honesty, loyalty, self-respect, responsibility, self-discipline, and sociability. And those core values are the bedrock of everything that happens in this place.
The core values of Inanda Seminary are extremely important, and they will also help the girls along in their life's journey when they leave the school, from their families and into the workplace.
And it really has been such, and I think that many of the girls in the world today are so prominent because those core values were so important in this place. They are values that we embrace in a Christian context. For example, the first one is honesty, and I always say to the members when they come here that the first person that they need to be honest with is God. If they leave this school after the years that they've been here, embracing those values in their lives, then we believe that they will have left with the real heart of Inanda Seminary.
The seeds planted at the seminary in the late 1800s continue to flourish more than a century later. Indeed, the fertile soil of the initial sanctuary has nurtured blossoms of beauty, glowing and growing the love and message of the selfless pioneers, filled with hope as they shine wherever they are.